Hey, hey, yes, yes.
My name is Salem Marley. I'm repping Jamaica, and my mother's name is Lauren Hill.
I'm close to multifaceted artists or multimedia artists. Some often get more attention than others, but each of them are just as important. Whether that's styling or film or design or installation art, which I think is a part of visual art, but is its own thing as well. I think being Caribbean inspires visual art. I always envision myself in the tropics, because I feel like that's where I'm from. That's where I feel most at home. And I feel like that's directly connected to the fact that to this Jamaican background, just like the islands and the sand and the beach. I think there's different ways as well. I think dance is a big one. Whining. That's the only dance I know how to do. That's the only dance I know how to do, I swear. Or tick-tock, tick-tock. All these different things make up who I am. That are expressed. Sometimes the expression or the impact is not always so direct. Waking up, having dumplings in the morning, porridge in the morning, before I go do anything, that's my foundation. But maybe it just affects me subconsciously, maybe that's just what it is. I think my mom probably informs my music a little more directly. I get a lot of R&B style from her. A lot of I mean, I would go on tour with my mom. It's like that type of thing. I started realizing, but unintentionally almost. I'm sure my parents were like, "Oh, we're gonna," but it's just like you take them on tour, you put them in music classes, you expose them this, you don't let them leave the house if it's not a certain standard that you set for yourself. So it's like you instill all that into me. Of course, I'm gonna follow in the footsteps to a certain degree. She instills a lot of wisdom. She wants to be a part of it, especially because she did it first, honestly. So it's like she knows the ropes. It's definitely intertwined in a lot of what I do. And she gave me a shirt, you know what I mean? Like, and all of that is artistry, because I just said styling, as music. You know, like she's very, very entwined. I think she's supportive. Like she lets her kids dream.
So my grandfather is Bob Marley, and he is a Jamaican artist. So my grandfather was a revolutionary, first things first, and like my mother as well, and definitely a freedom fighter through the lens of music or through the lens of artistry or art. So much of the sounds we hear today are directly influenced from the Caribbean. You know, food we eat directly influenced from the Caribbean. Largely influenced by my grandfather, honestly. I mean, I think that to a certain degree, they definitely turned that into a trope. You know, weed smoking Jamaican, dreadlocks, yaman, one love, you know. I mean, I think that a lot of it has definitely been reduced down to like silly tropes. But in the media, there's a restriction to how intelligent they're allowed to be. You know, there's a restriction to how, like, I would, like, intelligent, honestly. So things that come with, like, these really intense principles and these really, like, these teachings and a lot of the knowledge gets reduced down to, like, voodoo is one, black guy, scary black guy, tall black guy. What really is media? It's storytelling. So it's not just like the word that we're saying, it's the fact that they'll create an image of that person. And this is across the diaspora all the time. We are descendants of this history. So I feel like just having that sensitivity and that like global understanding of the fact that we're part of a bigger picture and there's so much that's come before us that we are oblivious to. Like we just weren't there. That's why I love history, knowing that there was a whole world before me that I know nothing about. I just now got born into this. And I'm here I just jumped in the middle of the book. We are on like a track. Like we started somewhere and we're here now and there's been a whole path and like we have to be accountable for that. Even if you have to dig for it. Because there's so much like distortion, there's so much manipulation in terms of narrative. But anyone can have a narrative. What is the truth? Like what really happened? Like we all have stories, you know. You know, they always say there's three sides to every story, your side, my side, and the truth.
Hello and welcome to the eMeleK project, an Afro-Latino tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I am Victor Vauban Júnior, playwright, director, your host, and I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. We have the pleasure of receiving Dr. Byron Price, PhD professor, to join us in this conversation, and we also have Mr. Charles Miller, who is an after school program instructor, and he's also a personal trainer. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. Professor, it was nice to have you here.
Thanks,
and I was very impressed to know about your academic accomplishments. So can you expand a little bit more in your about your academic achievements.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me, Victor, and good to be here with Charles as well to share the platform with him. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and I never saw my dad till I was 26. And so unlike some of my other people I grew up with, some turn right, I turn left, but I turned the right way. And so I became interested in education because I was a pretty good football player, but I got hurt in college, and I saw how coaches treated us, and they didn't value our education. And a lot of my friends matriculated from college and graduated from college and never became educated. So I realized the importance of education because I read Frederick Douglass' autobiography. When the kid, he tricked the kid to teach him how to read. And then the master said, if you teach them how to read, you know, they would be dangerous. So I grasped the importance of education. And so as a result of that, I was always good in school. And my teachers would always reinforce how smart I was. Because it's a study called Pygmalion in the Classroom, 1937. It says that teacher expectations matter. And so, like, for example, we were the 3 smart kids, and they told these teachers, well, these kids were dumb. And the dumb kids, they told them that they were smart, and then the teacher started to teach the dumb kids like they were smart, and teach the smart kids like they were dumb, and they flipped it. So I had a lot of teachers that sort of told me how smart I was and supported how I was, and supported my academic achievement. And I share one anecdotal story, which was funny, that someone conveyed to me last year. And it was so funny because they remember that from the 6th grade. So that was, I'm be 60 this year, so what is it, about 1968, six. They said, my 6th grade teacher used to say, y'all not like Brian Price. He called me Brian as opposed to Byron. He said, now Brian Price will throw a brick in the hearse, but he can get his lesson. And so my teachers always reinforced that. And so I went on to get my bachelor's degree from Texas Southern University and a master's in public administration from Texas Southern University. And I have an MBA, Master Business Administration from Oklahoma City University. And I had a PhD from Mississippi State University. Because as Malcolm X said, education is the passport to the future. And so I realized that was very important. So that's how I became very interested in academic achievement.
And you also have a couple of books out there, right? Yes,
I had books on private prisons, and I'll tell you how I got into that subject matter. When I was in the 6th grade, as I said earlier, I never saw my father till I was 26. And one day I asked my mother, I said, Mother, where are all the adult males in this project that I grew up in, which was profiled on the History Channel called Lamont Guard. They call them blood murdering gangsters. They used to rob the drug dealers in Memphis. And so I asked my mother, where were all the adult men? And she said they were all incarcerated. And then in the my 2nd year of college, I remember hearing that Corrections Corporation of America, which is now Core Civic, that's a private prison corporation. They started in Nashville, Tennessee in 1983. And so I was reading an article where they said that stock traded on the stock exchange.
In 1983?
1983.
And that's when the prison
boom. Exactly. That's when it boomed. And so I said, wow. When I thought about when I had that epiphany, that question I asked my mother. I said, so they've been commoditizing men, you know, they turn them into, they trade them on the stock exchange. So that's why I call my book, my first book, Merchandising Prisoners. You know, because it's like your merchandise, they selling. They're selling us. And so that's how I got interested in that subject. And I wrote my dissertation on prison privatization as well. And so I've been studying incarceration and deleterious impact that it has on our families, Black and brown families.
I'm glad you're here. So that's what we're gonna be covering tonight, about the mass incarceration of people of color, and also how negatively it impacts the Black family. So, and for you, Charles, how it is to work with the youth in these crazy days of violence all over the place?
It's a challenge, but you know, I'm happy to be there and you know, try to set an example for them. And you know, I can relate to, you know, a lot of the situations and stories. And my youngest son actually works at the center too. So it's good, you know, it's good therapy for him because there's clinicians there.
I see.
And it's, you know, he's having different conversations with people outside of, you know, people at his friends or whatever. So, Yeah, it's good. It works. It
Good,
works.
good. Can you give us an idea? Because I'm coming from a country where they are trying to. We don't have a Black History Month,
Okay.
and there's already a movement trying to shut that down. The only day that we have that we celebrate Black consciousness is in November. And we celebrate this Black hero who was killed during the slavery period, and they're trying to shut that down because they think that's a way of spreading even more racism. So, in your view, what's the importance of us having a Black History Month?
I think it's extremely important because when you have a Black history, that's kind of ironic you say because Brazil is 51% Afro-Brazilian, if I'm using the correct term.
Yes.
And they only have, and 51% they only have one black college. It's in Sao Paulo, one black college, but you're 51%. But they understand the importance of agency because if you have Black history, that gives you agency, and you have a history. Because Chancellor William, I'll share a little anecdote with Chancellor, the Destruction of Black Civilization. He gives this little quote. He says that a traveler asked the old man, what became of the people of Sumer? For ancient legend says the people of Sumer were black. And the old man sighed, they lost their history, so they died. And so it's important to understand your history, and that's why our kids don't think they can do mathematics, although we invented mathematics. See, as Tony Browder said, we teach others what others teach us what we taught them.
The Broder Files.
Yeah. So what you have to understand is history and understanding your culture, where you come from, and being able to have pride. Because Africa, even Champollion, he said, ancient Egyptians of old thought like men 100 feet tall, but we in Europe are Lilliputians. Remember the little people, they thought small. Herodotus is the father of history, talked about how everything came out of Africa. So the importance of being educated and understanding your history, so now you know where you come from as opposed to what they show you on TV. The buffoonery, Africa is the dark continent. When you think about all of the Brazil, when you think about Brazil, the favelas, they show you the favelas and so forth, show you the poverty, but they don't show you all the people, like the pedagogy of the press, Paulo Freire talking about how education and history is important. So it is extremely important. So they don't want you to know your history because then you won't appreciate that unity and so forth.
Because I think education is the key for everything.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what happens in developing countries. They try to prevent the minority groups of achieving education.
Absolutely.
And even in Brazil, it's a huge struggle to have affirmative action. So it's still a struggle over there, but we hope it's gonna change sometime soon, because it's just like it's visible, but it's still like we have the abolition a century ago, but mentally we are the majority of people, but it's still like mentally in chains because we don't make the change, and we are the biggest number, but it's still we don't have representation on TV, we don't have representation anywhere. So can you explain how it is? Because I understand when there was the freedom of slaves in America, 13th Amendment, right?
13th, 14th, the 15th Amendments are sort of like civil rights amendments.
Yeah. And how much has changed once the black father figure is not in the home? How did this affect the dynamic of a family?
Okay. Did you want to go?
I
pick up because I just finished. I picked up.
You know, from my experience and from what I've seen, it destroys the family. My father, I didn't meet my father till I was 10, and that did something to me, like just not having a father figure and the guidance, and so I had an abusive stepfather. And that made me like just rebel against the household. Like, I don't want to be here. I'm running away at 13, 14 years old, and was out in the street. So I fell right in line with, the hustlers and the drugs and using drugs and selling drugs and, just doing criminal things, and took on a criminal mentality. and which led me to getting locked up in my teens. And so it was when I got locked up that I started reading. Like you said, like I was speaking about education. I started learning about, you know, myself and
like Malcolm X did in
prison.
Right,
exactly. Like right, that's one of the books that I read, the autobiography of Malcolm X, and you know, a lot of these different books. And you know, I started changing my way of thinking, and then really reflecting, because I did 17 years, and reflecting on, you know, what got me to where I am now. And I started thinking about all the, you know, everything that I did throughout my life, all the, you know, the criminal things that I did, all the, I'm like, yo, I gotta make some changes. And what really hurt me is when my son followed that path too. And now it's like, wow, this is
what it usually happens.
Yeah, do you think it is already a system in place to make sure that this kind of things happen? Like we don't have the father figure at home,
for sure,
and this is stabilize the home.
Absolutely. But I think I would add this here. I think I never saw my father. I think something Charles said that he had trauma from the abuse of his stepfather. I think a lot of young black males have trauma,
and we don't understand it,
and we don't understand trauma.
How to deal with it. Yeah.
And because father figures aren't in the home, a lot of black boys get abused, sexually abused. And because they don't know how to cope with that, they have trauma. And that manifests into anger and anti-social behavior and so forth. And so it's undiagnosed. And so then they begin to hate men, so they hate another black man because this man abused them. Wow. And they have trauma. And like you said, once they remove the father from the home, and then now, but they're also removing the female from the home also. So kids are winding up, like he said, his son followed him, where they're winding up in the juvenile justice bureaucracies and the social bureaucracies, and they become more at risk for incarceration, sexually transmitted diseases, and gang violence. But one of the things for me, and I think for a lot of people who did make it, I think the most important thing, because Charles and I was having a discussion offline, I think the most important thing is my mother had a lot of love in the home. Although we didn't have a father, there was a lot of love. And
that's what kept me alive.
That's right. I think when there's a lot of love in the home, you can although the system is put in place because a woman couldn't get welfare if you had a man in the house.
I think if I didn't have that love, I would have just gave up.
Absolutely.
And I just would have turned into a complete savage.
So to your point earlier, Victor, yes. The system is designed to keep the father out of the home, to keep families broken, not the traditional nuclear family and so forth. But I think love has the ability to mitigate the structural impediments that they build into the system to sort of put our families in disarray and allow us to not sort of to divide our families, for lack of a better word.
And I see the overload of in the number. The increasing number of domestic incarceration of people of color is like the prisons are overloaded of people of color, and the violence that happens there is just unbelievable. I was watching a while ago this Khalif Browder story.
Yes.
And that was like, it was terrible. He was like for 3 years in prison for a crime that he didn't commit. It was never proven.
But he couldn't get bail though.
Yeah.
That's the bail system is broken. See, if you're rich and you're white, then your father might know the DA, and they come get you. But he couldn't get bail for 3 years, and this is for a misdemeanor.
Yes.
And a rapper just shot a cop and got bailed out for $250,000.
Well, that's because he has money.
Money, yeah.
It's money. So the system is very broken, and it's intentional because when you commit a crime and you get a felony, like I said, you can't get financial aid to go to school. You can't get a barber's license to cut hair.
Depending on what kind of crime you got.
Depending on what kind of crime you have. I mean, so what are you going to do if you can't get these jobs? And this professor, Devar Pager from Harvard, she shows how employment is one of the main factors with the desistance of crime. So if you have a job, then you're more likely to not return to prison.
I agree.
But also another thing that they do, because they call it the prison industrial complex, they should call it the commercial correctional complex. Because you look at all the cottage industries that are developing around incarceration. Like if you want to send me an email and he had a picture, I mean, they charge you money to send emails and pictures. You know, you used to send a book there. Now they got a commissary.
Oh,
Got to do JPay.
And you have to buy everything through them.
I had to buy everything
So
through
they
the phone
got, they
system.
got the whole market locked down.
And the last point I make is reason why people go back to jail that's been in jail because all these fees add up and they lose contact with their family members. And if you can't communicate with your family members and they can't visit you, then you lost those social networks, and then you're more likely to reoffend when you come out because you've lost that contact with your family.
So the prison is full of Caliph brothers.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I'd like to share a video with you guys, so we're gonna have a discussion about it, okay?
Okay.
All right. Pause.
Can you at least uncuff me?
You already know the answer to that one. So don't go acting like today's your first day in here.
Shh. It's not like I'm trying to escape here or anything. I can barely move.
You're not supposed to, Cinderella. What do you think the cuffs and leg irons are for, huh? You must have think. Every time you come out with this type of nonsense, I want to wide open the skull for Billy Club doors. And Cinderella.
Stop calling me that! That's not my name.
Anything else?
I don't want him to see me like this.
Nigga, you already know the deal. Now, why are you trying to fuck up my day, man? So far, everything is cool, right? Let's just keep it this way.
But Warden said it'd be all right.
You know what? I don't know about that. You're pushing the envelope here.
I'm not asking for much. I just don't want him to see me like this. In cuffs. You know, it doesn't hurt to treat people around here with some dignity and humanity. There's no gain in treating me like an animal. We're all humans here. Civilized people, after all.
You look at you. Acting all entitled and shit. Making demands and all. Civilized people, after all. Well, seriously, when are you going to learn to? Don't be thinking that just because of Warren Thompson allowed you the privilege to see your father today, you can go act all crazy on me. You know, I can stop this nonsense right now. Push me. Push me and see what happens. Do it now. Do it. Try me. Go on with your demands. Go on.
I'm not demanding anything. I'm just asking you with all due respect. I know you're just doing your job, and I respect you for that, no doubt. I do. I would never try to cause a problem ever.
Don't even think about it.
Of course. You see me. I'm always quiet and I keep to myself. I don't bother anybody ever.
Oh, are you telling me a little speech? Or are you stupid? Wise up!
Please. He's gonna be here soon. It's been years since I've seen him. I'm just saying, I wouldn't cause any trouble.
And you won't. I'll make sure of that.
Of course. I won't.
Do you forget what you are here again? You see, I don't have no problems reminding you of that. Do you want another reminder?
No. No. As I said, I know that you're just doing your job. And a great job, by the way. I just want to have a real moment. I mean, it's Father's Day, for God's sake.
Oh, you're so cute when you're begging like that. You know that? Well, guess what? That's how he's going to see you, and that's how you're going to see him, all right? Inmates are not allowed out of their blocks, much less uncuffed. Consider yourself lucky. Lucky that the Warren Thompson even allowed you the privilege to see your father today. You see, that doesn't happen very often. Did you just see what we had to go through all the way from Block 4 to Block 6? You saw that, right? You two must have touched her heart really hard with your sobbing stories for her to let you come up here. But not mine, I'll tell you that. I don't buy into that bullshit. I see you. Anyways, make the best of it. He's on his way here right now.
All right. So as we just saw, the violence behind bars is prevalent. The abuse, and those Caliph brothers over there, they have nowhere to go, nobody to claim, to call and to come to their rescue. So after all this trauma and abuse, how is the mind of someone who comes out of prison with all this abuse in mind, these traumas? How do you think it's affect not only this young person, but also all those who are around him when he leaves?
Well, of course, because when you come back to the same kind of neighborhood, you're demographically and geographically concentrated around people with the similar experiences. And so that's exacerbated by the fact when you come back, you can't claim your home as a man because you can't find employment. Okay, you can't vote, you can't participate in jury duty, and there's so many different things that you can't do.
Wow.
So when you saw in your play, you saw the God was emasculating a young man, called him Cinderella, which was implicit in he was probably sexually assaulted in prison.
Yeah.
And so he abused him. Then they moved away from restorative justice. It's still punitive kind of justice. So when you go there, you're supposed to rehabilitate. I don't know if you saw Shawshank Redemption, you talked about rehabilitation. They asked Morgan Freeman what it meant by rehabilitation, his character, but they don't rehabilitate.
Just make it worse.
They just make it worse. You may go in there innocent and you come out.
Even worse.
Even worse.
That's true.
And so when you think about emasculation at the guard, he showed no humanity. I mean, he had the same color, and you understand the system, but because he's probably a powerless man at home, he comes in and abuses the inmate. But then when he come out, formerly incarcerated, again, as I said earlier, you know, you're trying to sort of navigate and move through, and all you have is you can't get a license because you might be in child support arrears behind, so you can't get a license. So you give your ID, you only got a Department of Corrections ID. Who's gonna hire you? So there's a lot of trauma, and then when you go back, last point I make is, so when you go back, you don't trust government anymore, and so you don't participate in your indirect democracy because they deprive you of being able to vote. So now still people are making policy that adversely affect you and keep you incarcerated and make money off of you. And the last point I make is that when you get in the system, you're on parole and probation. Now they shift all the costs to you to keep the system going. So you have to pay for urinalysis tests. You have to pay court costs. Every cost you can think of associated with incarceration. You don't have a job.
Right. So
you have to pay.
And if you don't have support, it's that much harder.
That's right. And then you get violated because you don't have the money. So you go back in. You violate your parole. So you're out there desperate. So what are you gonna do?
And to deal with the trauma that it comes from prison, it's just it's
a lot of trauma. I couldn't understand the trauma. I've done a lot of research, but you really can't know the kind of trauma a person is going through unless you actually lived it.
And how is it like in the Black community? There's still this stigma of talking about mental illness and looking for help. And that's another obstacle that we face, right?
That's a very good question. There's a lot of Black people. I don't need mental health.
Yeah, people just dismiss the mental health.
Yeah, they dismiss it, but a lot of people do need because they have trauma.
That's true,
and it affects their relationship, and it affects their relationship with their sons. That's why some of their kids follow them to prison because they don't talk to them, and they need to go get counseling together because their family is broken.
And it could go even deeper to the parents, the grandparents may have needed mental health and therapy in the Black community, but that's something that we shun and like, oh, I ain't crazy.
And they're young, wrong with me. Exactly, and they're younger than they having children.
Yeah.
And so basically, they don't really want their kids, so they feel that. You see, I see so many parents get mad because you don't want to keep their kids a little later because they want to do what they want to do, and so it's difficult. But I think what we lost during the civil rights movement, as in the other segment we talked about. I remember when I was coming up, somebody would see me walking down the street. Byron, why you ain't in school?
Yeah, where you going? What you doing?
Where you going?
Yeah.
Boy, your education is important. And then they could admonish you for your bad behavior, and you didn't pop off or want to get violent with them.
Now you say something to one of these kids.
You might get killed, Yeah.
So the system failed all of us.
Absolutely.
And with all this knowledge, I mean, in the experience, you mentioned earlier that love is fundamental.
Yes.
But is love enough to bring everything back on track? Because from what I see families struggling with parents behind bar, family member behind bar.
Yeah. And
sometimes they come from already broken homes. So when you don't have the love, what else do you have?
Go.
Well, yeah, that's a tough one, but there's people in the world who have love for you that might not even know you. So that's why it's important to get with organizations like one of the organizations I work with is called Reentry Kingmakers. That's Antoinette Harris, and she helps, and we help inmates, prison ex-convicts coming home from prison and help them transition back into society, and just housing and jobs and all those type of things,
which is fundamental.
And like a life coach, somebody to talk to when you need somebody to talk to. You can just pick up the phone and be like, yo, this is what I'm going through, yo, like what you think, and I can give you some sound advice, man. Not yo, go bust that dude head open, or yo, let's get this money on the criminal side. But
see, the community and the politicians are failing too, because reentry starts when they get incarcerated. It doesn't start when they come home.
Right there.
It starts when they get there. So they should be setting up programs while they're incarcerated, and so helping them deal with the child support arrears that could keep them from getting their driver's license or whatever's going on. They should be doing that before they come out, as opposed to when they get out.
When I was in Virginia, they did have a program like that to help you get your ID and get get your driver's license or. Just to fill out the application and everything.
That's important. One of the things we set up when I worked for, when I did prison reentry director briefly for Mayor Cora Booker of City of Newark, we had a one-stop shop. We set it up where you come to Essex Community College, You could look for a job. You could enroll for vocational education. You could get a bus pass. You could get everything you needed in that one location. Okay? And then we also mapped out where all the ex-offenders were in their zip code, so we can make sure services were in those particular zip codes. So that's why it's important that although a lot of ex-offenders distrust government, but you have to be able to, you should vote if you can vote, because a lot of these people making the decisions don't care about your community. And so you need to participate in direct democracy.
Yeah, the reason I mentioned is because since the slave trade, black families have been through hell and back, so many changes and traumas, and it is so hard to deal, I see, without a father figure at home and have a real support, or even we see a lot of single mothers raising their kids, and the father figure is not there. And it is just, it's so complex because it destabilizes everything. And even though mother, the aunties, the neighbors, because there's a saying that goes, it takes a village to raise a child. And even with the village, and sometimes there's always one or two that fall through the cracks. And due to this systematic racism that's in place to keep.
But but again, real quick, I think the problem is, again, it goes back to these politicians, because I remember we used to have the boys club. We used to have the National Summer Youth Sports Program.
Remember they used to do breakfast at the
schools?
schools?
Breakfast at the schools. We used to have the Cedar program in the summer where they gave you free lunches. So they had a lot of programs for you to get engaged. See, I think so much emphasis is focused on saying, I think it's great to have a two-family home, but I don't think it is necessarily something that has to happen if you got a mother that's strong, but also
in a village.
And to your point, like you said, if you had a village, because like my sister was teenage, she never got married. She had 2 kids. So, but philanthropy starts at home, so she couldn't afford to do things for my nieces. So I did all the stuff for college and school and all the other different things. As opposed to looking down on my family members, they didn't ghetto people. Well, I saw my sister couldn't do for her kids, and since me and my ex had 2 miscarriages, I didn't have kids. So I said, well, how am I gonna save the world and my sister's struggling? So let me help my nieces and my nephews. See, I think one of the things you asking those questions, one of the things that slavery and this society has done to us is put us in a position where we don't love one another and our families. And so as a result of that, we have so little compassion for a sibling that's struggling. And we're very judgmental with our siblings.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the one thing that we have to correct.
Relearn how to love one another and listen to one another. Because I think there's a quote of Dr. Martin Luther King that says, we are afraid of one another. I'm paraphrasing him. We hate each other because you don't know each other. We don't spend the time to talk to one another.
Absolutely.
And that's fundamental.
Absolutely.
So on that note, let's go to the second clip, okay?
Okay.
Martin, he's here. Your father is here. Come have a sit.
Officer, give us a minute.
Sit down, I'm gonna make you sit down. Is that what you want to see?
Officer, give us a minute, please.
You gotta be kidding me. Huh? An apple doesn't fall far from the tree now, does it? You know what? Maybe I should bring some liquor over to celebrate this momentous occasion, right? What do you prefer, huh? Some Alizé? Some wine? Oh, no. Better yet, maybe some champagne for you and some Kool-Aid for your kid over there, huh? Crazy ass motherfuckers.
Officer, give us a minute of privacy, please.
Privacy? Y'all keep mistaking prison as some kind of luxurious hotel where you can make all sorts of demands and have maids running up and down to satisfy your nonsense, huh? Wake up! The Waldorf Astoria is miles away from here. Nothing else in here resembles it. In case you haven't noticed. Sit down. I'm not gonna say it again.
Please! This is my son! I have to talk to my son. Nobody's gonna do anything stupid here. We spoke about this. Please, do I have to beg you again? I will beg you, please. I do beg you.
Shit! Do not make me tell you more than once what to do. When are you gonna learn that things don't go your way, sons of bitches? You know what? I'm tired of your shenanigans. You're going back now. This fucking visit is over. Yes. War toxin. Yes, Officer Winter. Copy that. Copy that. You got 30 minutes. Make the best of it.
Yeah, so as we just saw in this clip, this hate that it intensifies behind the bar with the youth. The youth is so vulnerable, and it's just unimaginable to see how we can deal and try to find the answer to this kind of trauma that it's even magnified behind bars. Mm-hmm. So how would you could say give an advice to someone who is going through this kind of situation?
Doc touched on something earlier, and he said self-love. You gotta love yourself, and if you love yourself, you're not gonna hate your father or your mother or you know. So I think it's important, man, that you love yourself and know who you are. And that's what's wrong with a lot of these young brothers. They don't know who they are. They trying to be something that was manufactured in a.
And what I just saw is it becomes magnified behind bar because you already have this feeling of rejection, of being the wrong place and being wrong in this situation, and it seems like prison clearly does not rehabilitate nobody.
Because your dad didn't protect you because he wasn't in your home. Now he's in prison and he can't protect you. So how do you respect someone that never protected you and can't protect you? And then in your clip, your dad will say, "I love you." Well, how do you love me? You know, when you never showed that you love me, it was just words. Something Khalil Gibran said. He said, "Work is love made visible." So it's got to be visible. You know, people say they love you all the time, but as Patah Hotep says, every man and woman teaches as he and she acts. So you have to show people. And so I think, because I don't have this experience, but I think the young man felt let down because his father was never in his life, and he probably wanted to know, Father, why you abandoned us, and then you're in prison. He wanted to talk to him because he wanted some answers. But his father is broken as well. And so two broken people trying to sort of...
And I recognize that in the father, that he was broken up. Mentioned that to you too.
He was broken. And so we go back to that trauma. The father has trauma. He don't really know he has trauma. His son has trauma. And he has this animosity and hate toward him. So how can they really sort of move past this when the criminal justice system doesn't have in place systems to sort of do counseling and so forth? Because the guards, they perpetuate and cultivate a lot of the violence in the prison. And so it's a very traumatic experience for a lot of people.
To find a correlation between this mass incarceration of youth and slavery?
Oh, absolutely, because the penal system didn't start until they freed us. In 1865, the modern prison system started. So when they freed us from slavery, then they basically came up with these laws like loitering, vagrancy, and so forth.
To fill the prisons
That's right, to recapture that free prison labor.
Free labor, yep.
Okay, and so now, and then you think about it, sharecropping system. So cotton, all that. See, people always talk about affirmative action. Well, Jeffrey Katz wrote a book when affirmative action was white. He shows how affirmative action and the New Deal and all those programs were actually for whites. The GI Bill and all that was for whites. All the houses that they bought, that was for whites. It wasn't for blacks. It was affirmative action for whites. But as we started to sort of benefit from it, then it became our issue. We the welfare queens and kings and so forth. And so they began to demonize it, because we started to participate. Like even when you think about subprime lending and housing and gentrification, like I always laugh. People ask me, because a lot of prisons in Memphis, in Tennessee, in the South. And so one of the things that's important for people to know is that more money is spent on incarceration than education. In Mississippi, they built no new schools, but they built 20 prisons. No new schools, but they built 20 prisons. So it's about that's Marx called that surplus population. Black and brown is a surplus population. We don't have jobs and so forth. And so you remember economics, 5.5% of people will be unemployed at any given time. So that's considered full employment. But we know the unemployment rate in our community is always much higher, and then if they say it's 20% in our community, it's probably twice that. And so when you think about not having value, like Charles said earlier, the first and last love begins with the love of self. Can't love your father if you don't love yourself. Can't love your mother, you can't love other
people. And where do you learn love? At home.
Absolutely. And so now the kids are younger that's having kids. Now they got kids.
They are kids. They don't know how to raise kids.
Exactly. And the kids are on electronic crack. They just doing videos.
On videos. Exposed to so much on.
It's way too much stuff.
So much.
Well, we used to conjunction junction. What's your function cartoon? Now you think about
the Super
what
Friends.
they're watching. So there's a lot of stuff, messages that are being communicated to our kids that are harmful as a result of popular culture. The baddest bitch. I don't know. Can we say that? Okay. So Trina, she the baddest bitch.
Now they got the new ones. And Nicki Minaj and Meg Thee Stallion.
Crazy.
WAP.
It's just some wet ass pussy. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. But the women, they like it. I remember I was in school. It was a song, the pussy. People, that's my song. So I'm thinking about, wow. We listen to that, see how we demonize ourselves. How we demonize ourselves, and how when you look at comedy, the more vulgar they are, the louder people laugh. So basically, we lost our moral compass. So we don't care about crime. You think about like stars, like 50 Cent in the movie Power, everything about drugs
and criminality.
sex and criminality.
Yeah.
Where's the stuff about the CEOs? Okay, like the white folks got Billionaire, you know, the
Yes.
Billionaire series.
Yeah.
We got Power, we got that. You see what I'm saying?
Where's,
So
the,
there's
story,
a-
where's the stories about revolutionaries making changes
Absolutely.
in communities and
So we have to refocus and analyze everything and change direction.
It's intentional
Yeah.
because the FBI studied how music
Influence.
influences people
yeah.
because people say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I just listen to the beat." Well, how come you know every one of the words?
Yeah.
So you're internalizing the messages in the music.
Yeah, and there's nothing enlightening. There's nothing that aggrandizes or gives something positive. It's very
Absolutely.
demeaning, and it's something that we have to be very aware and try to avoid all those traps.
And
Because-
the music perpetuates the prison culture.
Yeah.
and
All
they
right.
make it seem like it's you know we just doing it but we're being influenced
Absolutely.
by the music, by you know,
24/7.
television and the media.
And it's like the more violent you appear on TV, rates go up.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what they're investing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't see the success stories on TV, the black CEO, as you're saying, and the successful woman, the kids being sent to college. We don't see that.
Booty call. We see booty call. I mean, all this stuff.
Foolishness.
It's foolishness.
And then, but the music is like murder, kill,
Yeah, it's
shoot.
atrocious. It's atrocious.
and that's what's going on in the street.
That's what's going on. in the street.
Teenagers, 14, 15, they shooting each other in the head and then putting videos on.
But
Social media,
they don't
like-
they don't understand the finality of death because when you see TV, people always get up and the hero, you know, who doing all the killing, is glamorized.
And something that I noticed, I'm not from here. I was not born in this country. I was not raised in this country. But something that I noticed, which is it's terrifying. Correct me if I'm wrong. All the clips that I see about the gangsters and the shooting, the killing, they're all black people. They get financed to perpetuate this image of the tough guy, this monster, this.
But they at
Yeah.
fault too, because there's enough black people making enough money
To reverse this.
to reverse that. But what they need to do also is get the distribution channels. See,
Yes.
so they need to be able to distribute that film. So if you're Ava DuVernay, I hope I'm pronouncing her name
Yeah.
correctly, then she should have places to distribute her stuff too. Just not let the people distribute. Because Spike Lee and them back in the day used to have to beg for money to make quality movies, and then people wouldn't show his movies. So you have to understand that we're going to continue to have problems with incarceration because we don't create jobs and business in our community to hire people.
And if a positive image of how much you can achieve as people
Absolutely.
of color, and it's negative. I say this because in my country it's the same. We have no representation, and the few that we have, they're like almost like for lucky. They were able to navigate, and then
token.
but it's just like
Exactly.
one or two, and there's no positive
Absolutely.
representation.
You know what I remember about Brazil? City of God.
Yeah.
It was just violence.
Violence.
It was violence about the kids.
Right,
That's what that movie, City of God. But they don't show you the positive things from the Afro Brazilian. They
No.
just show you that kind of stuff.
Because that's what's gonna sell. That's what it seems like what people want to see.
And so, as Nathan McCall said in his book, Make Me Want to Holler, he had that gun and made him feel power. He had power because he felt powerless for so long. So it made him feel like he had power when he
Makes
had
me
that
wanna
gun.
holler. I read
Yeah,
that one
when he
too.
had the gun.
So let's take a note and look at the next clip.
Okay.
All right.
Are you okay? Martin, is that you? Is that really you, my boy? Martin, is it really you? I wish we could have met under different settings. But we're here, so let's make the best of the circumstances. Are you okay? Martin, I was, turn around. Let me look at your face. Look at you. You're all grown up. You're a man now. Hey man, how you been? Let me look at your face. We don't have much time here. Let's talk. I was very happy when Warden Thompson told me you're here and wanted to see me. I mean, it was a little bittersweet to know I was gonna see you here. I wanted to see you, Martin. And from what I understand, you asked to see me, right? I guess I wanted to see you more than you wanted to see me. Warden Thompson told me you've been here for 4 months. What are you in for? She also tells me you're placed in Block 4. It's cool there. Minimum security. You have access to therapy, classes, books, all the stuff you need to better yourself. How they treat you there? Look, if I knew you here all this time, I would have asked to see you much earlier. You understand me? Look, I know you might be angry with me, but now's not the time for that. Are you angry at me? Just let me know. Talk to me. Look, things happen. Things way beyond my control. Martin. Listen, I wanted to see you. You're my son. I love you. I would never do or say anything to hurt you, never. Don't just stand there in silence, say something. I'm here for you. Your silence hurts me more than anything. Say something. Well, if you're not going to talk, I'll ask the officer to take me back to my cell. Despite anything, I love you.
You love me?
I did. I do. You gotta believe me.
Love. You do love?
Yes. You gotta believe me. Please. Forgive me.
Love me. You love me. Forgive you?
I love you with all my heart, Martin.
Liar! You're a fucking liar!
I'll take that. I'll take it. It's not the I know what you might be thinking. But you just can't be angry at me without knowing the facts and all that I've been through. A man never has control over his life completely, Martin. I mean, how can I put this? It's a great mendacity, Martin, that it is what it is. A great mendacity. An illusion, that's all life really is. Nothing is for real.
You're so full of it! The fuck are you talking about?
To see you. Here. Since they told me you were here 3 weeks ago, these 3 whole weeks I've been trying to get myself together, getting ready to see you. I have this huge, gigantic amount of guilt weighing over my shoulders because I was never there to be the father you needed me to be. I feel terrible.
Good. It's good you feel it. It'll never be enough to fix what you did. You know, even if all the guilt that you say you feel were enough to squash you like the despicable maggot you are. I didn't know if you were still alive. But I dreamed that if you were, I would get the chance to meet you someday and smash your head with a fucking baseball bat! I always wanted. And it would never diminish all the hate that I've been holding on to for years. I hate you! I would kill you with my bare hands if I had the chance.
Every door has 2 sides. It's a lie to believe that we are so strong and self-determined that we can overcome everything once we put our mind to it. It's a lie. And who's ever been preaching that bullshit forgot to add temptation and weakness to that equation. Strength and determination don't fit everyone. Just like fatherhood. I don't know what you heard, but you know. But the truth of the matter is I just lost myself completely. I don't know what you were told. But I had many ups and downs that you're not aware of. Nobody is but me and God. Whatever. You have your reasons to be angry. But I love you, son. I always did. And always will. I want you to understand that.
Now stop trying. I'm not enthralled. Yo, straight up, you fucked it up. And you keep trying to mince the fucking words. I hate your guts. Now, I hate you for what you did to me and Mom, but you're... You hurt me and Mom. And I hate you for that.
I want you to give me a chance. Please give me a chance.
A chance for what?
An opportunity to make things right.
Oh, so now you're asking for an opportunity. There is no opportunity to be given. You fucked it up real good. There's no return. No coming back. You can't undo shit like that.
Yes, I can. If you give me the opportunity to make it right, I'll show and prove to you who I really am. All I need is an opportunity to make it right. Please.
The same opportunity that you didn't give me and Mom when I was little.
Your mother and I had a love-hate relationship going on, son. You're making me feel as if I'm still lost, but I'm not. I'm clean and sober. If you forgive me, I'll make it up to you. I understand your anger. And I don't blame you for that. No, I don't. Not a bit.
Oh, thank you kindly. Much appreciated. You fuck out of here with that.
Looking at you now, for some reason, it makes me remember the day you were born. You were this small little thingy in my hand, so beautiful. My little jewels, so minuscule, so precious. I used to place you in the center of both my hands like a precious jewel, just like a pearl. So fragile, being sheltered by these strong hands.
I hate you. I hate you.
I saw that little jewel grow and grow and grow, week after week. One summer, I think you were 3 or 4 years old. No, you were 3.5, yeah. That's right, you were 3.5 years old. It was the summer of '88. July 3rd, 1988. A friend of mine had let me borrow his cabin for the whole weekend up in Pennsylvania. Just your mom, you, I. I'll never forget that weekend. We wanted to get away from the noise and the mayhem the holiday brings. What a great time we had. Just ourselves. No electricity, no phones, no TV, no nothing. Just us family. I know you don't remember this, but on the second night we were there, around 3 a.m. we were all sleeping. All of a sudden there were fireworks outside and you woke up scared and screaming in the noise and the darkness. Your mother jumped up out of bed and ran to the next room where you were, and I was right behind her. We tried everything to calm you down, but you just kept wailing away. I remember seeing her start to panic. Then I took you in my arms and gently began to rock you. I brought you back to our room. I laid down on our bed and I laid you laying down on my chest. I could feel your heart beating against my chest. It was beating so fast. And then our two hearts were beating as one. Same pace. And there we were, lying chest to chest. You stopped crying. I sang you a few lullabies and you fell asleep. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder where you are. Up above the sky so high, was magical.
And then you decided that we weren't worthy. You decided that we were too much for you, huh? You weren't ready to handle that kind of responsibility, were you?
A man is only a man until he can still be a man, Martin. Love becomes a burden after some time. It chains, it suffocates, it kills you if you don't know how to handle it. And I didn't, that's the truth. Men are weak when it comes to temptation. After a while, we resist and fight, till there's no more strength to fight. It's human nature. You'll understand that someday. I'm still a weak man, Martin. For God's sake, you're my blood. I never wanted to see anything bad happen to you. I wish I could have been there to help and protect you.
Fuck this bullshit, man! Protect me? I don't give a fuck. Look, I didn't need you then, and I don't need you now. I can fend for myself, and I always did. If I have to fight, then I fight. I can handle my own battles. Never needed you, and I'm still standing. I taught myself everything that I know. So you can slice and dice as much as you want, but you cannot change the fact that you abandoned us. Me. They told me. But I want to hear from you. What happened to you and Mom?
I'm sorry, Martin. You'll never understand. I mean, how can I put this? You're still too young to grasp the nature and complications of men and women relationships.
I'm a quick learner. Try me.
Your mother and I were in love for a while, and I was in love with her. I thought I was. I think I was. I really was until it lasted. You have a long, long road ahead of you. You learn what life means. You learn what it entails to be a man. Life is not as easy as it seems. Just give time to time. You'll see it. You'll learn it. You'll understand it. I wish things could have been different between your mom and myself. I'm sorry, Martin. That's all I can say. I'm sorry.
So what about that girl? Was it true?
I don't know. There's always someone to deviate us from our direction. We live in a world full of temptations, full of demons. I had no control. I can see now I was weak, I was vulnerable, I was irresponsible. I loved your mother. I still do.
Don't you think it's late for that? She's dead now. Difference does your love make at this point?
I can't keep punishing myself for our mistakes. I hope someday you can find a way in your heart to forgive me. I do love you, son. Goodbye. Take care of yourself. And if you ever want to talk to me, I'm not going anywhere. Okay?
Be good. Why'd you leave me? What? Why did you leave me? Why did you leave me? Leave me. Why did you leave me? What? Why did you leave me, Dad? Why did you leave me? 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 Why did you leave me?
All right, so as you saw in this clip, I think that's what it was the dream to every father and son relationship to end with reconciliation, acknowledgement, and respect. It is imperative that we learn to really listen to one another and respect and see and put ourselves on the shoes of the other one. So what do you think about this end?
I thought it was a very powerful closing, because you talked about it earlier. We saw where there was anger and hate, and as you pointed out, there at the end there was reconciliation, there was forgiveness, and I think they were free. Once they reconciled, they were free from all
there was
that
understanding.
baggage.
So once there's an understanding, we're able to sit down and listen to one another. And I think that's what's missing in our environment.
Exactly, and they showed emotion. A lot of men are not emotive. They hold things in.
Men don't cry.
They don't cry. You seem weak and so forth. But that was very cathartic. Your scene was powerful. It was cathartic because they cried and they reconciled and they forgave. And so I think they had a catharsis. They were able to let it all go. And I think the last thing that I'd say is one of the things that I think for us as we move forward, as we close, and for all those that are struggling, once you move past that, I used to watch this series called Spartacus, and he had one powerful quote. He says, "The past is seldom as we would have it. The future is yet to be known." Okay, the past is seldom as the future is yet to be known. Embrace the present and strike all less from concern. See, once you forgive and so forth, then you can't stay in the past. You have to move forward. You have to be future focused.
Yes.
You have to be future focused.
And I think it's imperative that we all at some point seek advice, seek counsel, because
Absolutely.
we cannot do this by ourselves. It seems like we are strong, we can survive this, survive that, and try to avoid all these little problems that they add up and bring us down.
Absolutely.
So, and forget this stigma about mental health and looking for help. No, we all need help.
Absolutely.
And that's the key for all the problems that I see in society these days. I think we have to really take the moment to look at one another with respect and understanding.
Absolutely.
And always put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, because I think that's the best way to really move forward. Because if you only think about us, it is just like it's just the ego and doesn't take us anywhere. So our final thoughts, I would like to thank you guys for being here tonight and help me to go through this explanation, because me as a playwright, I try to write about things that I see outside, and I'm really afraid of what I see. And I'm always trying to convey the humanity, even though I've been accused a few times of perpetuating this stereotype. But no, I think I'm just showing what I see and look for answers and asking questions, because that's how we're gonna move somewhere once you ask questions and find answers, because that's what is missing. And that's one of the reasons I wrote this story, is because I'm really afraid. I always afraid of going behind bars, always. And I saw from early age how the system works, and they're out there to really get us. And even, I mean, there's not a moment where you go outside on the street, you have to look over your shoulder, because what's happening right now with the young man who was killed at home by the cops in Minneapolis, it's out of control. But we have to keep the faith. And once again, thank you so much for being here. Any last words that you got like to say?
It takes a village, community.
Takes a village. It takes a village.
And it takes people like yourself doing the work and being willing to stand and take the criticism, so we can deconstruct these behaviors in our communities that are very harmful to our communities. So I would encourage you to continue to shine a light on our dirty laundry, but and to provide solutions, and to continue to inspire through your work, because we need people to inspire us, because so few people are willing to sort of stand up and stand tall and accept what comes with sort of shining a light on things that people don't want to talk about. So I would like to applaud you for sort of shining a light on the area where so many people are unwilling to sort of dialogue.
Thank you.
And so, well, thank you for having us. And as they said, namaste.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much. And on that note, let's keep the faith and move forward. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.